how do we turn our dreams into a reality? So how do we take our vision that we create in January and then roll it out for the rest of the year? Hi, I'm Kelly Tolliday, founder of Transform with Travel, and your trusted guide to life-changing adventures. Here, we help you dream big, plan smarter, and embark on your next journey without stress or overwhelm. This isn't just about booking trips. It's about reimagining what's possible for yourself, one adventure at a time. Today, we're bringing you one step closer to your greatest travel dreams. So buckle up because we are about to take off. Hello, everyone. Happy 2025. Thank you so much for being here today, for choosing to listen to this podcast with your time this January. I know that it is a really exciting time for many people to be in a new year, and January has been proven psychologically to be the time in the year where we can dream our biggest. It's also a great time of year because for most of the Northern Hemisphere, it is a time where it's a little bit colder and we're inside a little bit more. So maybe we're not quite out there in the world doing the thing. We're inside and we're dreaming and we're reflecting. So it's actually been proven to be a really great time to do your dreaming. And that is why we have today's guest, Maria Maldonado Smith. She is on the podcast today, and she is one of the leading experts in goal setting and vision boards. And in this episode, we're going over the neuroscience of goal setting and manifestation, how travel can actually help you achieve other goals in your life, health goals, relationship goals, work goals even, and how to create a vision board to set you up for success. And honestly, so much more. You just got to get into the episode to see. You are going to want your notepad for this episode. Stay tuned for the end as well, where I share what my vision board for 2025 includes. After this conversation with Maria, I sat down and created my own vision board. So let's go. Hey everyone, welcome to the Transform with Travel podcast. I'm your host, Kelly Tolliday. It's the start of a brand new year, and I literally couldn't think of a better expert to have on the podcast today to help guide you towards achieving your goals, your intentions, your visions for 2025. And she's not only an expert in goal setting, but she also walks the walk and is a huge traveler herself. So a very big warm welcome to my dear friend, Maria Maldonado Smith.
Thank you so much, Kelly. I'm so excited to be here talking with you.
I just have such an immense respect for the life-changing work that you do, Maria, and how you are equipping people from around the world to understand the neuroscience of goal setting, which I think is so important to understand the actual science behind it, but then going one step further and helping them and supporting them create the vision for their dreams and then the action plan beyond that. Because we'll talk a little bit about there's the vision and then there's the action, right?
Yes.
And for many of us listening to this podcast, we envision a life of travel and adventure. That's why our community is listening to this podcast, is because they want to build a life of travel and adventure. So we're going to hear from you today about how to take that desire for travel or that vision for travel and turn it into action. As you say, just take the dang trip
Yes.
and do it,
Do
right?
it.
So before we begin with this episode, we're going to play our Transform with Travel game, Two Truths and a Lie Travel Edition. So are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay, let's do it.
All right. Okay. So I have peed in a hole in Lujan, Argentina, outside of a massive church. I have been
I love
to
that.
7 European countries, and I've been to all 50 states in the United States.
Ooh. Oh, this is a tricky one because all 50 states is a big task, but I know that you traveled a lot for work before. So, and also I just feel like the first one was so specific. I feel like that has to be true. I'm hoping it's true because that's a great story. I'm going to say it's all 50 states.
It is. Oh my gosh.
Oh, so since I've implemented this game, I haven't been wrong yet.
Oh my
So
gosh,
I'm
look at
I'm
you. I
like,
love it. I love it. Yes. I so wish, and that's a goal, is to get to all 50. My husband has been to, I think, 48. He just has
oh my
Nebraska and
God,
Alaska,
wow.
believe it or not. So we're on a mission
Wow.
to cross those two off of his list, which are also on mine, and then make the rest happen for me. I've been to a lot. I want to say I've been to like 40, basically all of the West. I have not really done. Like, yeah,
Really?
I mean, we just went Wyoming for the first time this year. Haven't been to like Montana, South Dakota, North Dakota. Haven't done the Dakotas, and really haven't explored the Pacific Northwest. Haven't gone any further than California. So, which is crazy. I've
Yeah.
flown like over those places to get to like Quebec, to get to, but never actually landed there for in all of my work travels in life, never landed in that area.
I'm in the exact same boat. Nicole Cumberbatch, who's a really good friend of yours, she asked me for her podcast, "Where's somewhere that would surprise people that you haven't been to yet?" And I was like, "A lot of the US." Like, I haven't been same, I haven't been to a lot of the West. I have not been to the Pacific Northwest, which is on my bucket list. So that's really cool that you and your husband have this vision for each
Yes.
other to see the US. So let's go to the first truth
Yeah.
that you peed in a hole in Argentina, because I actually really wanted to start our conversation talking about your experiences in
Mhm.
Argentina, and maybe we can touch touch on this story. But you said that your love for traveling, when we were talking backstage, was just began as a child and visiting family in Argentina. Could you share like what these trips going back and visiting family and exploring Argentina, like what that meant to you and how it shaped you?
Yeah, I commend my parents for traveling with 3 children. I mean, a pseudo teen, my brother, who I guess was considered a tween at the time, I guess, I was 8, 9 years old. My younger brother, that was only like 3 or 4. So, for him, he was dealing with a young child, traveling internationally before the days of computer screens and cell phones and all of
iPads.
the things.
Yep.
But it was really important for my father, who left his home country to come to the US, for us to meet his family, meet his mother. There was not a lot of resources and opportunity to make that happen when we were growing up. So this was like, we got to do this now, because she's not getting any younger, and my siblings are also getting older. And so he wanted to provide us that opportunity. And I would say that everything from when I was younger, I've always had like a traveler spirit in me. It's just one of those things. My husband and I've moved several times. And even though I lived pretty much in the same spot till I was 30, we've moved 4 times since then. So we've
Mhm.
really, once we were given kind of those opportunities from a corporate standpoint, we took them, because we've always felt that pull to move and to travel. And I think that was rooted back to when I was younger. And I think when you're a child too, you're just so open. Everything was so cool and so new and so different, because it was so different. I mean, I was like, there were some areas that roads weren't paved, and that kind of blew me away, because like, wow, okay, interesting. But then at the same time, like the architecture of Buenos Aires, the just getting to see my family, getting to see how they live, how connected they are. I mean, they literally live connected. Like their homes are connected, their balconies are
Mhm.
connected, there are steps leading from one to the next. So it was a really cool way as a young child to think, gosh, we're just this like 5-person family unit. And we did have my mom's side of the family, but my dad's side of the family was all over there. It just opened my eyes to a new world, and made me realize, wow, I live in this bubble of the US. And at the time, I was born and raised in Kentucky. And so I lived in that bubble, and that took me outside of that, which was really cool.
I mean, Kentucky to Argentina is quite the big
Yes.
culture shocks.
Yes, for sure.
That's incredible. And I feel like when you do have those early experiences, I also have experiences, maybe not as young as 8, but definitely through high school, of going to countries that just have a different way of being, different way of living. Again, families all living super close together, the school just being across the street, center of town is the soccer field, the soccer pitch. It just helps you see that there's other things in life to value that I think you've mentioned before. There's like being rich and then there's living rich. And it's like that sometimes those two things can happen at the same time, but also you don't have to be rich to feel as if you're so rich in love and connection, which I know you've talked about before, is what happened when you would witness your family being together in Argentina.
Yeah, it was such so beautiful. I mean, we ate together, we partied together. Like it was just such community, and I think that we lose a lot of that living in the US. Like we miss a lot of that. And I notice it too whenever we've traveled to Europe. It's a lot of the same. And when we visited friends, it's like there's just, and maybe they would feel the same way if they came over here, because we'd be coming together for them. But I felt that the way my family over in Argentina lived their life was very indicative of the kind of people that they were too, which was warm, loving,
Mm.
generous. Like they were about that community feel. And I do think, because our lives over here are so fast paced, even as a child, I was able to understand that. And I think you crave that. Then you get older and you're like, man, I want a little more of that. And that's where I think every time we travel, that's what we're searching for. Is we're searching for the slow, we're searching for the getting lost and the ease of things. And yes, it's aided by the fact that we're a tourist in a country that now is we're literally setting aside the time to do those things. But I think those are great reminders when we come back to not just immediately then also get back into the rush of life.
Yeah, absolutely. In the new year, many of us are setting resolutions and embracing new challenges, like dry January. But just because you're cutting back on alcohol doesn't mean you have to miss out on the joy of cracking open a great beer on your next vacation. That's where Best Day Brewing comes in. Brewed in Northern California and crafted for the doers, the trailblazers, the early risers, the adventurers. Yes, that's you. Best Day creates the perfect non alcoholic beer for life's special moments. Whether you're relaxing on the beach or celebrating a great day on the slopes, life is chock full of moments that deserve a great beer, but not the booze. And let me tell you, Best Day delivers with the world's best tasting craft beer, minus the alcohol. You get all the flavor and none of the compromise. I've been alcohol free for over a year, and Best Day has been my best bud throughout this process of feeling better than ever. Their Kolsch, Electro Lime, and Hazy IPA are my go to favorites. Learn more and shop at bestdaybrewing.com or at bestdaybrewing on Instagram. Cheers to your best day yet. And so we're sitting here having this conversation, and we're going to talk a lot about the vision that we have for our life. And like you just spoke about, like travel helps to open you up to a new way of being and how you want to integrate that back home. And this episode is launching right at the beginning of the year, which we naturally feel this energy of a fresh start, new goals, new vision. Can you talk a little bit behind the neuroscience and the research behind this new year, new me phenomena that we all, that maybe not all feel, but a majority of us kind of lean into?
Yeah. So it's interesting because I do think there's two schools of thought, and maybe not even thought, but behavior. Some people will march into the new year like, yes, new year, new me. I tend to be in the school of new year, new opportunity to enhance the old me, the current me.
I
I
love that.
don't like this idea that we have to drastically change who we are. We evolve slowly as people. It takes, it takes so much longer to build a habit than we think. I mean, actually, studies have shown, it takes average of 66 days, not the 21 or 28 days that were typically like the clickbait and the soundbite. Like, oh, it takes 21
Right,
days. Take my
right.
21-day program, and I'm going to have you fixed. You're gonna be
Yeah.
great. Life takes longer than that. It takes a little bit more consistency for us to actually change. To rewire our brains and to create new neural networks is not like a snap of a finger or flip of a switch. It takes time because our brains are very well, they're stubborn. They're very comfortable with familiarity. They're comfort with their comfort zone. Like that's where their comfort is like, I want to make you happy.
Mm,
And so when we tell our brains, like, I don't want to do that, or I don't really like to do that, we have to shift the reframe and the focus. So it takes longer for us. So that's why people get frustrated. 92% of people give up on their New Year's resolutions, and 62% of them do it within the first month. So,
wow.
January, we're headed into this new year. Be kind to yourself, but also be realistic in understanding that you're not going to be able to cross off every goal that you decide to change or to create a new habit for within the first 30 days of this month or 31 days of this month.
Yeah, I really like that school of thought because I also kind of lean into that. I actually take the whole month of January off typically
Oh,
anyways, and
that's
if we think
fantastic.
about it from a seasonal perspective, December, January, February is winter, and although we're both based in South Florida, we don't really feel what a true winter feels like, but energetically, our bodies are hardwired for thousands and thousands and thousands of years to kind of lean into this state of hibernation, right? And so we're kind of pushing up, in my opinion, pushing up a little bit against nature and like our hardwire
Mhm.
our hardwired
Yes.
nature to kind of go into this state of not just hibernation, do nothing, but reflection at least, which is I think January is a great month to reflect on the year behind us and then start to plant the seeds for what's to come in the spring. So I really like that kind of give yourself more time. I know the sobriety coach that has been on our podcast before, Jen Hurst, she doesn't do the, what do they call it?
Dry
Dry
January.
January,
Yeah.
30 days. She does dry 100. And she's like, if you can make it these 100 days, I promise you, like, because it takes longer to build a habit, especially a habit like drinking that is so hardwired in our brains. So I really like that. And as a goal setting expert, what do you see? You work with people, hundreds of people from around the country, around the world, setting goals for themselves and specifically around the new year. What do you consistently see ranked as kind of the top 3 or 4 goals that people want to achieve in that year? Like, what are their resolutions?
Yeah, I mean, I would say statistically, like what we see just in polls and everything, and even with my own clientele, I will see it mirror a lot of what you'll get from even Gallup or different polls that are taken just to ask people, to survey people what they're focused on. Health and wellness is by far the number one. I mean, I think we're always searching. It's interesting because as I get older, I'm like, health and wellness is not as elusive as we make it to be, but it kind of becomes this almost like thing that we just continue to carry it from one year to the next. And I think it's because we go about it in all the wrong ways. We're always looking for those quick fixes. We're like, okay, I'm
Right.
going to do the gym membership this year, but then that's why you have 62% that give up in the first month, because they're like, oh, it was really hard and I was expecting to lose 20 pounds, my entire 20-pound goal within the first month. And they don't realize that 20 pounds might take the entire year, if not longer, to get
Mhm.
off. But it's about maintaining and sustaining and being more consistent. The second thing is financial freedom. We see that a lot. And I think it's because people want to be freed up so that they can travel, so that they can live the life that they want. And listen, I mean, if we don't have our health and our wealth, like those two go hand in hand. And then number three is travel. And then number four is followed by personal relationships. So either strengthening that, building a family, planning for that, whether it's, yeah, I mean, getting engaged, all it kind of runs the gamut, but just think of personal relationships or developing deeper relationships. Interestingly enough, as I've started to work with more college students and collegians, it's really endearing and touching to see how much emphasis they're putting on building those personal relationships and wanting to connect with others in a much deeper way. I think that we've kind of run this idea of like the Tinder and these apps and the things that are out there, and I think what people have been left with is emptiness, and so they're looking
Mm.
for more. And I think the same goes for travel too. We're looking for more. Like I always encourage people, take the trip. So, kind of to your point earlier, I always say do the dang goal. It's like we have a do the dang goal in my process. And it's because we typically carry a goal from one year to the next. So it's literally like it's like bringing that baggage along, but it's like dragging it from 2024 into 2025 and saying, maybe this will be the year. Maybe this will be the year, and you're like, you're, you're like so half-heartedly. It's like the idea of this goal is it's made you weary. It's worn you down.
Mhm.
So I always tell people reevaluate. And if that's a goal that you truly want to make happen, then dang it, make it happen. Like stop making excuses and make it happen. And so put together, that plan, because I think we love ideation. We love to ideate and to think and to create this vision. But the hard part is the doing. So I love that about the 100 days, because I'm someone who's like, habit formation is a lifetime process. I don't even buy into the 66. I mean, like I said, studies show it takes on average about 66, depending on the goal. Some are easier to create a habit for than others. I can imagine that, sobriety, that has got to be a very significant amount of your life and time and energy. Think back to the neural networks. You're literally trying to retrain and reframe your brain to think in a different way, away from something that you might have been so inclined to do. So when it comes to goals, we have to be mindful of that and go easy on ourselves and say, it is that consistency over that perfection.
Yeah, and the piece that you talked about with, let's like go back to like health and wellness with the gym membership. It's like great, okay, you got the gym membership, but have you created the space in your schedule to go to the gym? Have you actually scheduled 6 a.m. I'm going to the gym? Have you put your training shoes out by the front door? Have you? It's like there's the overarching thing, like book the plane ticket, but then you haven't actually done the foundational work to get you to keep going. And that consistency piece is so important. And what's really interesting about the college kids and the Gen Z and younger who you're working with, I was just thinking as you were saying about that personal relationships are so high up on their list right now, is I wonder if it's because they've grown, they are like more so than millennials grew up on technology and are seeing the like how much havoc it's wrecking on their whole lives. I did not expect you to say that when you said college. I expected maybe travel
Yeah.
or live
Yeah.
abroad or get the job, but that is so, like you said, very encouraging, I think, because we like to think it's all doom and gloom with the younger
Yeah, I know,
generations.
I know. And I worked with younger millennials. They were part of my team. I've coached and developed a lot of them, and they never lived up to the stereotype. They honestly, I maybe I just got the best bunch of them. I don't know, but we always got along. I felt like I could speak their language. I felt like they just were willing to ask some of the questions that maybe the older millennials and that generation had always been told no or was disrespectful. And I think with Gen Zers, they're now pushing the envelope of, hey, we were presented this. We kind of dug in and saw what all of this is, and now we're choosing to say we want to live differently. And I
I love that. I
yeah.
just got goosebumps. I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah. So I mean I'm raising two Gen Zers as well. So I know how much they both love to travel. So my hope is that we are helping to retrain and reframe and rewire their neural networks to have more connections. And I think maybe that's also what they're looking for, is like through travel, through financial freedom, like it gives them access to do the things that they want and to really live an abundant life. And I think as much as like we talk about that, they're about applying that to make it happen.
And so you talked about the excuses, like we like to talk about the idea and we romanticize the this, and I'm going to have this, I'm going to have that. And we talk about the vision almost as if we are that person already that has created it, but we haven't. Right. And then when it comes down to having to do the action to get there, sometimes there's a bit of a dissonance between the person who wants the vision and the person that it's going to take to get that vision. Can you share some of the excuses? And you coach people personally one on one as well as working with massive companies with their employees and the government and everything. So you have run the gamut of all the different types of
Yes.
people, at least in the United States. Could you share a little bit about the common excuses that you see people make that hold them back from achieving their vision? And perhaps we can relate it specifically to the travel, the travel goals.
Yeah. I would say number one is we're just afraid. Like I think we're
Mm,
afraid that if we really attack things that because I think we're afraid of failing. I mean, I think like in anything, that's like fear is one of the biggest things we uncover a lot because it also then leads to a lack of self-confidence and lack of trust in ourselves. But fear is a big piece. Time is a big one. We make time our enemy. And I always tell people it's not, no, you have the time. Like I have a really dear friend who is, and I think you heard her speak. You've heard Marissa speak, and she's a dear friend of mine. She's a time management expert, and that's she says all the time, it's not that we don't have the time. It's not a priority. So that's where you have to then realign. Well, what are truly my priorities? If I truly want to make this happen, I can't just keep giving it lip service. I actually have to carve out the time in my schedule to make it happen. I also think the excuses are that we make as well. I wasn't perfect this week, so I didn't go to the gym all 5 days of the week, Monday through Friday. So, well, I mean, I guess I'll just either give up or I'll try again next week. And then, if I don't, like, and then slowly that mentality starts to weigh you down that you do give up because you're like, well, I can't really like stick with this consistently because our idea of consistency is thwarted. We've been taught to believe that it's all or nothing. Like you got to be all
mm,
in 7 days a week. And I mean, I'm all about no excuses, but at the same time, I always say my dreams have to take a break. So my dreams sleep on the weekend just like I do. Like I mean, we are going Monday through Friday with three kids, running a business. My husband travels for work. Like we are all in. I still find time to get my workout in. I still find time to do the things I need to. I journal every morning. Like I still find that time because it's important to me. And I've made it a priority because writing is very
mm.
important to me. It's very therapeutic. So I think the excuses that I have come to outline really are driven around this fear, this time, and this all or nothing mindset, and just this idea that we also sometimes our dreams, we make them bigger in our minds. And so we think, gosh, am I even really worthy of that? Like, I don't even know if I'm like capable of that or if that's really even for me. And that's where I always have to check people and stop them right there to say, like, if it's here, if it's on your heart, if it's in your mind, it's there for a reason. There are so many thoughts that have been put in my head. And when it reaches my heart, I know, like, okay, this is, I got to move on this. This was meant for me. And that doesn't mean that it's going to be easy. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to be afraid. It doesn't mean I'm not going to battle my own inner dialogue and struggle with the imposter syndrome or feeling less than. But I know I've got to push through. Like those, I now have trained myself to know that those are excuses that, like I said, my body, my comfort system is telling me, like, Maria, you're making me change. You're making me do different things. I want to pull you back to where you're really comfortable and happy. The problem is that when I do that, I'm not actually comfortable. I'm not happy. I'm not happy staying
Mhm.
stuck. I'm not happy not achieving, that goal or that vision. it becomes so much more than the goal or the vision itself. It becomes about who I am becoming in the process.
I really love the piece about the time and how your friend Marissa spoke about it's whenever you say, I don't have time, replace it with, it's not a priority for me. And I remember someone messaged me a couple months ago, like, girl, how are you traveling so much? What's the deal? And I get those messages quite a lot. And I remember just writing to her, it's a priority time wise, finance wise, relationship wise. Like, we make this a priority, and like you said, it just takes time to be able to build up that self-worth, to know that you can take that trip, and you're allowed to leave work and you're still going to be valued. Like, it's like all these things that we tell ourselves, and the money piece, which I know we're going to talk about, saving for travel and using goal setting for that too. But yeah, there's it's a lot that goes into it. But I really, the piece around self-worth and not knowing if you're even worthy of those dreams alone, I think is something that people, when you get down to the root of it, is like truly that's kind of where like the umbrella of all of it lies.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's why we don't even sit down. I mean, less than 3% of Americans sit down to write their goals down. So when you
Mm,
think about it that way, it's like because it's safer up here. I mean, it's safer in our head
yeah.
because it's protected. No one has to
Well, it's
know.
protecting the version of you that you are now, because it doesn't know the version of you that you can become.
Exactly.
And it's a safety mechanism. So at one point it's like, thanks brain, thanks ego.
Yes.
I know you're protecting me, but also step to the side and let my heart lead the way at
Yes.
this
I love
stage.
that. Yes. Yes. Absolutely. That is so true.
We spoke a bit about different goals that people have. So the top 4 goals, like you said, health, wealth, travel, and relationships. And travel can even be something along the lines of personal discovery as well. So, can you talk about your own personal experiences? I know you have so many stories of traveling and all of the amazing things that it has brought to you and the life lessons that you've learned. But could you share a couple of your own like personal stories of traveling and how your own goals in your life have been fueled by travel?
Well, my husband and I do prioritize travel. I mean, that is just something that we do. We prioritize travel with the kids and the family and then with ourselves because that is, to your point, I mean, that's how we connect. And yes, we could stay at home and do that, but we feel like why not expand our boundaries, expand our limits of meeting people, of connection. I love connecting with people. And I think that one of the goals to tie this into what you had mentioned about the relationships and wanting to build relationships is I always say that I think the world should be like assigned to travel. Like we should, that should just be something that you have to do in your life is leave your comfort zone, leave your country, leave your, home state, whatever, and go somewhere and meet new people. Because I think what we find is that we're not all dissimilar. Like we're really just human beings trying to make it from one day to the next. I think travel, one, makes you realize that we're all so alike than we are different, but that we have different cultures, different traditions, different upbringings that have shaped the way we think, feel, and act. I would say one of the best stories that we have is, I mean, we have made some friends that we met in a pub in Ireland, and my husband and I were just out drinking in Temple Bar area. And so we happened upon this pub in Dublin, and we ended up chatting it up with this family from Scotland who were there on holiday. And it was a mom, a dad, their 2 daughters, and then at the time, the boyfriend of one of the daughters. So we ended up becoming really like good friends with them, and connecting on Instagram, connecting, a WhatsApp chat, and before you know it, I mean, we're going back and forth, we're sharing pictures. Oh my gosh, we kind of hung out with them the rest of the day. That was the other thing too. Is then we're like, okay, like you're kind of like just like our new friends. So we traveled to other
Right?
bars and like bar hopped with them. And before it's all said and done, we're like, we're coming to Scotland. They're like, we're coming to the US. It was like hilarious. And we had a fantastic time with them. And so we did in 2019, we ended up we did a little like London, Amsterdam, Scotland, or Inverness, Scotland trip. And my husband and I went and stayed with them and then hung out with them for a few days in the beautiful, beautiful town of Inverness, absolutely stunning and gorgeous, where the Loch Ness monster lives. And
Oh,
they said that
yeah.
so that's actually why we named our dog Nessie, because we named her
Oh my god, I love
after,
that.
yeah, because we got her shortly after we had come back from that trip. So we're like, oh, we got to name
Oh
her
my
Nessie.
god, I love a travel name dog. How
Yes.
cool.
Yes, I know. And we always say, she would love it over there. She would absolutely love it there. So I think that's the cool thing is it makes the world smaller And it makes you
Mm,
realize that we are just all in this game of life together.
yeah.
So, like, be kind, get to know each other, and have fun.
100%. And being able to recognize like the lessons as they come too and like apply that to your life. I think that's really cool. So, you are a vision board expert, right? You are
I
like if
do love
anyone
them.
wants to
Yes,
create a vision board, you love a vision
I
board.
do.
And so there's no better time of year, right? To create your vision for the year ahead than it is right now as you're listening to this podcast. Like whip out your notes and get ready because we're going to talk about from like start to finish how to create your vision board for 2025 based on everything that we just spoke about. And obviously, I can't help myself. We're going to have a travel lens on it. And you're going to be able to walk away by you, I mean, listener, you're going to be able to walk away with a brilliant roadmap to create your own vision board and be able to use that for your year ahead. For those that are listening, I know what a vision board is. I love them, but could you just explain first and foremost what is a
Yes.
vision board?
So if you ever take one of my workshops, which I hope you all will, and you'll sign up, I always say it's the gift with purchase that you get for walking away, doing the work, spending the time. My workshops typically in a corporate setting, they're all day, like 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. But by the end, you've made your board. So it's a visual representation of the goals that you are setting. And they're visual images that really need to speak to you. And the reason I say that is because we are inundated with images. There's 3.2 billion images uploaded online every single day. And there's over 800,000 hours of video content uploaded online every single day. Like we are inundated with images from the moment we wake up until the moment we go to sleep, especially if you're one of those late night scrollers. So if you have an average of one social media account, you see on average 10 to 100 images a day. So that's just one account. And most of us have, let's face
Wow.
it, I've got TikTok, I've got LinkedIn, I've got Instagram, I've got Facebook, I mean, you name it. So that's a lot. That's a lot to process in one day. The reason the vision board is so important is because, yet again, back to that neuroscience, we're activating a part of your brain when you look at those images every single day. It's called the reticular activating system. And you're literally like that. It is now starting to create what I say, like an information funnel. So it's saying, oh my gosh, I see these four images. So you've got the girl standing on the mountain, and she's overlooking this Positano and she's got her backpack on, or she's, ready. Like she's got her, her scarf's blowing in the wind. And like that becomes the visual image because you see that picture and you're like, I want to be that woman when I'm on my trip, or you see the woman like, sitting on a boat, or you see the man, who's biking, with the mountains in the background. And you think, gosh, I want to go hiking and I want to go biking. I've been wanting to do that forever. Now you start to sit with those images every day. They become the focus. They become your information funnel. You're curating and creating what you want to see. I liken it to this whole thing of like, I don't want someone to tell me what my vision is. Like I want to tell myself this is my vision. So I'm going to go out and find those images that represent that. Sorry. I know that was a lot longer than
No, that's amazing. No, it's so powerful because what you just said, I don't want somebody else to tell me what I should be valuing, which is essentially what we're allowing social media to do every day that we open something up, we're scrolling, we don't know what's going to pop up and we don't know how that's going to affect us, how it's going to change our mind. So instead of allowing others to dictate what you're seeing and essentially paying attention to not just at that moment, but also with the reticular activating system, it's popping up for you because you're noticing that everywhere else. And so you're taking control of your own personal life algorithm,
Mhm.
basically. I love
Yes,
that.
yes. That's exactly what you're creating. And so sitting with that for 3 to 5 minutes, every morning and really just thinking about it. And that's why I always say, it only takes 5 minutes to reflect and journal. Just dump what you're feeling. What do those images make you think? I think that the best way that I could probably tee up how to help your listeners create their own board without going through my day long process, without, even if it's like, I don't want to purchase the workbook, like get me to the fastest. I say there's three questions we got to ask ourselves. And I like to frame this up because I've made travel boards. I am very much an itinerary and a spontaneity. Like I need both. I need to kind of have an idea of where we're going and where we're headed, but then I'm completely fine with like going off the beaten path and like letting us just get lost and finding locals, or picking a new activity that wasn't on the itinerary and deciding we're going to do this afternoon instead. But as you sit down to think about your travel for 2025 and where you want to go for the year, these three questions apply in every aspect of your life. They really do. The first one is, what do you want? Like, I mean, crazy how simple it is. Like, but what do you want? What do you really want? And I think I see it this way because I think we can look at it and say, well, I want to have fun. Okay, what do you really want? You have to dial it down and keep going. Okay, so what does fun mean to you then? Like, then what does that mean, and outline that? Because for some, fun is the opera. For others, it's traveling to a foreign country and drinking every beer that there is in Germany. Like, I mean, the fun in and of itself is so robust, and we're not taking the time to really like dial in on what that fun means to us. It's like, what do we really
Mm.
want? Do we want to travel? Okay, great. Now where to? Okay, great. Now, do we want to hop around to one city? Do we want to stay put? Do we want to go somewhere else? Like, there's so many different degrees of that question that sometimes when we think about what I want, well, I mean, okay, cool. Like, I want to travel. But it doesn't stop there. We got to keep peeling
Mhm.
back the layers. The second question is, who do I want to become? And this one I love because travel does help us become a much different and I think better version of ourselves. And so, who do you want to become after taking this trip? Do you want to become that person who is open minded? Do you want to become that person who can relax? Is that what you're searching for? Do you want to become the person who says, I'll try that food and take that risk and take that chance?
Yeah.
Or that says, sure, I'll go up in a hot air balloon over Paris. Scares the crap out of me, but who I'm becoming is the person who says yes to things. So maybe that's your version. And then the third is, what do you want to create? What do you want to build? I think a lot of it for travel is, you want to build memories. You want to build a knowledge bank of the world around you. You want to build relationships with people in other countries. Like I said, it decreases our proximity to each other, even though the miles may be many. It closes out our gap of how we feel and think about the world. So those three questions right there, if you're sitting down to plan a trip, just keep peeling back the layers until you get to a place where you're like, now I know exactly where I want to go. I want to go to Italy. And when I get to Italy, I want to go to Tuscany. And I want to go to Tuscany because I've always wanted to squash grapes. And I want to squash grapes. And then I want to taste the wine that that I've done. And I want to make pizzas in the inside of a 15th century castle, like literally like get that granular to where you understand exactly where you're going and where you're headed. Because the idea then is, you want to create these new experiences and build a life for yourself outside of your current little bubble.
And I think it really allows you to get, like, as you said, so much more intentional about your trip instead of just throwing spaghetti, literally, if you're going to Italy, throwing spaghetti at the
Right.
wall and just trying to figure out like what you want out of the experience. And it allows you to focus on the greater picture of the intention of the trip, even when things go unexpectedly or unplanned or things happen. Like, you're able to have this greater vision
Yeah.
literally for yourself and focus on, okay, this flight got canceled, but my intention is to learn how to roll with the punches a little more, so this is a great opportunity for me to reroute or figure something out. So I really like that framework of those 3 questions. So it's, what do you want, and then what do you really want,
Right,
like,
right.
getting
Like, yes, yes.
specific. Who do you want to become, and what do I want to create or build? And so you start with those 3 questions. Like, could you walk me through like a step by, like, a speed version, step by step? You have those 3 questions. Now you have the answers. Now, how do you create your vision board? Are you cutting pictures out? Like, what's your like favorite way of creating a vision board?
My favorite way is to then start. Now, I start a couple of different ways. I mean, I go cover a couple different ways. I always try to find or identify some words that make me really feel that are very powerful in my process. It's a 5-step process, and after you answer those 3 questions, just kind of in general about what you want, what you're wanting to like get out of the workshop, kind of what you're wanting to think about for the year, we go into the word of the year. But I apply this to all of my goals too, because I always say that, for me, for someone who loves to make vision boards, I make more than one in a year's time. I don't make just the one. I have the kind of the big one that represents everything. And then I will actually break them down into specific goals and by board. So for example, my word of the year for 2024 was trust, to really lean into just like trusting that the way things are happening is for me and all of that. So I carry that word over on some of my boards. Like, taking trips, I'm like, I'm going to trust that, like, this trip's going to be awesome. I'm going to trust
Mhm.
that the people that I meet and come into my life, like they're introduced to me for a reason and for a purpose. And maybe, who knows, it'll turn into some, connections and opportunities, etc. So words, phrases are I enjoy because they capture my attention. And like I said, it's activating that reticular activating system. So I want something that's going to kind of catch me. And then I'm really looking for images that speak to me. I can look through some images and be like, oh, that speaks to me, but I don't know if it belongs on my board. So
Mm.
speaking specifically about travel, and I'll use an example of the one that we used for our trip to Italy. As an example, I found an Aperol Spritz. I actually found that one online and printed it out because I was like, you know what? When I think of Italy, I think of a Negroni or an Aperol Spritz. I just think like those two drinks. And to me, the thoughts that came to mind were refreshing, relaxing, like like I'm gonna sip and have my first Aperol Spritz, and it's going to remind me that the reason I worked really hard for this trip was to get to that point. The
Mhm.
next one, I am taking pictures of Venice because I'd never been to Venice and I wanted to really embrace that. So I wanted to kind of already get a visual of what Venice was so that when I saw it in person, I knew it was going to be 100 times better. I found a picture of friends laughing because we took the trip, part of the trip with my brother-in-law and sister-in-law. So they were a big piece of that as well. And so these images just conjured up all of the types of thoughts that I wanted to kind of bring into it. Like we were talking about that intentionality. I'm not saying that I'm going to have this specific trip and I'm going to find this specific spot, but it's just giving me the idea of I now know how I want to feel. The reason I think this is so important, especially with travel, is because so much of us feel these days that our PTO or our vacation is something we have to earn, that we don't
Mm.
deserve it just for being a human being and, living this human experience. And so getting into the mindset of a traveler, if you're not going through this process, it could take you the whole trip before you finally relax and settle in. But if you're sitting with this board every day, you are priming and prepping your brain for that day when that plane hits the tarmac and you are like, I am on vacation. I am unapologetically going away, and these are the things that I'm going to experience. And I didn't have to earn this. I deserve this trip, and it's going to make me all of the things that I want it to make me, and probably many, many more. I think the other thing is like be prepared for the surprises. Be prepared for, we'd had a missed flight, a canceled flight out of Amsterdam that kept us there for another 2 days, and we ended up just flying out of there, and it was fantastic. We had no agenda, no itinerary, no nothing. It was just me and my husband deciding, let's just go explore. Let's go figure out this place and see some more of it that we hadn't planned. So I would say
Yeah,
that's
I
probably the
just had
best way that I could describe making that, but then finding those images, whether it's magazines or online, but really finding ones that speak to you, that when you sit with them every day, you're going to feel the momentum leading up to that goal or that trip.
I had so many thoughts kind of run through my head as you were saying that. And so on top of taking these visions and images and the person I want to become and who I want to create, putting that on paper, reminding yourself of the importance of why you want to take that trip. Another excuse we hear a lot about, and it's not just an excuse, it's a valid reason, but sometimes these excuses and reasons is around saving for a trip. Can you talk about how this vision board can actually help you save money for the trip you want to take?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I would say specifically if you are creating a vision board around the trip, which I would say if money has always been one of those factors for you, if that's been something that you find consistently is like, oh, I don't think I have a lot of money. Oftentimes it's because we're making a lot of assumptions. We're saying, oh, I don't have a lot of money. But then really start to think about where your money is going. And that's the other thing too. So I have trackers where, and it's hilarious how basic and simple they are, but how much they really work. There's so much to be said for physically crossing something off on a piece of paper. And so I have a tracker where it's just got little jars and you can save by day. I'm in $10 here, $10 there. So whether you dump $100 into a savings account every week and you cross them off for the whole week and it stays there and you're not going to touch it, and it's maybe an account that you can't access,
Right.
until you need to, or it's something that you're physically like socking away, like in a drawer, money. I think the other thing is this is where that the timepiece and the getting really clear. It's like what do I want? And if you want to travel, you don't have to spend $10,000 to go to Europe. I mean, like we don't. I mean, that's not, our trips are not like that. We will preface this by saying we have the benefit of a lot of work travel that does afford us a lot of free flights to Europe and a lot of free hotels, so that most of the trip by the time we get there, it's costing us nothing. But in theory,
Mm,
let's be real. I mean, it's costing us, a lot throughout the year to kind of get to that point. So I think that it's getting really clear on knowing what you want, like what's the intention there. And I think that's why we use money a lot of times as that excuse. Sometimes it is a real excuse. Sometimes I mean it's a real issue, not an excuse. Is
mhm.
what I meant.
Right.
And so there, I would say, like, let's get really clear and let's think about, like, really think about ways in which you can save, even if it's that you want to take a trip to the beach because you haven't been in a while. Start looking ahead, planning ahead. There are discounts if you will book early. There are opportunities to do things that don't cost, like, we make it harder on ourselves sometimes because we don't plan, because we don't have that plan of
Right.
action. So I would say get really clear on what it is you want, where it is you want to go, and then start doing your research. I mean, like, really figure it out, because money can be something that is manageable if you plan for it. I think the problem is that we don't go at it in a way that sets us up for success. And so then it tends to be the crutch that we just continue to use because we didn't plan properly.
Yeah, and I feel like if you do have that vision board and you're looking at it every day, it's almost as if you're activating your reticular activating system to search for creative ways to make it happen more. And you're constantly reminded of that person you want to become. So then you start prioritizing your money in a different way. I know we stopped using our house cleaner and I literally like I mean I'm not transferring it directly into an account, but I am like banking it up every time I'm like scrubbing my own toilet. I'm like, okay, I have $150 going into that flight fund for my El Salvador trip. It's like you start prioritizing
Yes.
different things
Yeah.
and ways you value your time in different
Yeah.
ways. So, okay, so speaking of children, one of the
Mhm.
things that I admire so much about you and your husband and your just family in general is how encouraging you are to your children about creating their own goals and then holding them accountable. And yes, you have some teenage children, but you also have younger children as well. So, how can you get the whole family involved in goal setting or vision boarding, whether it's related to travel or not? Like, how do you get even your young, small children on board with getting excited about creating goals?
Uh, it's easier than you'd think. We sit down every year to do ours. So every, the first or second of January, every year we are sitting down to create our board. Our youngest is 8 and he has made 4 boards. So his fifth board was this year. I mean,
Oh, so sweet.
yeah, and the thing is that at 8, he's now articulating all of these things because he's watched us do it. So I think that's the other
Mm,
key, is like, be the example. Your kids learn so much more by just watching you be the example. My husband and I have a business meeting. We have a monthly meeting at 2 p.m. the first Saturday of every month. Sometimes we have to push it to Sunday, like some, but it's in the calendar. And so if it becomes a moving target because we're traveling or we need to reschedule due to an event with the kids, we do, and we just do it the next day or we do it the day before. But it's something that we do because they will see us sitting at the table, like, discussing, this is the business, this is where it's headed, these are the plans, this is what we've got coming, like, it's just kind of, this is on the horizon for this year. So they see us taking things away from the event at the board, because it's easy to say, we're going to cut out some, really fun pictures from magazines, and I want you to think about what you want for this year and your goals. My workbook is definitely designed for kids as well, to ask them, what do they want to achieve professionally or academically, so they can look at it from an academic front. Do they want to get all A's? Are we mastering reading? Are we, we live here in South Florida, of course. In Florida, they take the FAST test. So, what do we want to get on the FAST test? We want to get above average, etc. But then the key there is just the follow up. It's just keeping them engaged with it, making sure that, when you are cleaning their room, or if you go in their room and their board is like nowhere to be found, like, hey, where's that vision board? Like, you were supposed to keep that in front of you. They each have a workbook that they will use, and I write their name on it. I put the year on it, and then they stay in a spot, and then we revisit them. So sometimes monthly, sometimes every other month. It kind of depends. I'm of the mindset that I don't have to be, yet again, I don't have to be perfect. If we miss a month, that's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
They're young.
Yeah.
Like they're going to be okay. So
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
yet again, it's just making sure though that saying, okay, but next month, now that's my reminder to not let that happen. And I need to create a Sunday night dinner opportunity or something for us to all sit around and go through our goals. And then it's just up to me, typically me, because I mean, this is what I do. But my husband will help in the conversation. How are you feeling about this goal? What have been some wins and losses? Like, let's celebrate some of those small wins along the journey to getting there. And then just engaging them in some of the things that they're most proud of. There are things that have popped up on our kids that, like, hey, I know I put this as my goal, but then actually this opportunity came up, which is kind of cool because had I not outlined this particular goal, maybe that one wouldn't have happened. So it's also showing
Right.
them that it's not being so rigid either around.
Right. Like pivoting is okay and actually encouraged. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, and teaching them that
Yeah.
resilience and teaching them how to flex in that way. Like, okay, I see you doing that. That's awesome. Like you're taking a new challenge that's been presented to you and you're embracing it. Whereas before, maybe you wouldn't have because you would have been a little afraid. And I just think it gives them so much confidence and I also think it builds a great relationship. I mean, I don't know. I like always knock on wood because I have a 15-year-old, a 17-year-old, and then an 8-year-old. And we're all three very close. My daughter and I are very, very close. And I appreciate that relationship, but I think it's because it's been built by us always giving her that autonomy to dream and to really just step into who she is. And she's out there like doing it. She's living her life. So and it's really cool
It's
to see.
It's such a testament to you and your husband because I personally come from a family who did that for me as well, not monthly vision boarding, but I dreamed the wildest dreams and they never once said that's too big or too crazy. They might have followed up with strategic questions to
Right.
get me to critically think
Yes,
the dream.
yeah. Exactly.
But I never once thought this dream is too big or they wouldn't support me in whatever capacity that I needed to get there. And I'm still to this day can go to my dad and say, "Hey dad, I think we want to buy a house in Costa Rica." And he doesn't turn around and be like, "You're an idiot." Like he just turns around and says, "Wow, that's one of your dreams you've had for a long time. That's amazing. Congrats." So, testament to you and your husband, testament to the work that you do. Thank you for sharing that. I have just two more questions, and one of them is really short, and because the theme of the question is about time, right? So somebody might have that excuse of, well, I just don't even have time to create the vision board. Like, what do you mean? I have an hour to write the journal prompts, and then I have to cut the things out. And of course, like this is supposed to help us slow down and give us this space, but I also don't want it to be a barrier to somebody even starting the process in the first place. If someone is quote unquote short on time, what would be your best advice of, okay, what's like just a fast way somebody could get into this mindset of vision boarding? Is there a digital option? Is there an app someone can use? Like, what's your like band-aid for the time wound that many of us are feeling?
Yeah, I would say grab a piece of paper. Grab one sheet of paper, just one sheet of paper. Write down those three questions. What do I want? Like, what do I really want? Who do I want to become? And what am I trying to create? Because from there, you really have everything you need. You can go deeper, and
Right.
the work that I do goes deeper. But that right there, you can start to outline. And then maybe you write like personal, professional, and then like a play or fun and I know, like, to me the play and the fun is so important because we need that. Like, I mean, studies show we need to just engage in active creativity where the juices are flowing, where we're just in things. So if you outline those three goals, really no more than that, because we should not be working on any more than three goals at one time, because one,
Because it's
it's
too
too
much.
much,
It's too
way
much
too
for our
much.
brains, right?
We can only metabolize things so much at one time. And so if you outline those three things on a piece of paper and then start building your board from that, you really have a great jumping off point. And that's actually how I encourage a lot of people who have never made a board and do find my process at first overwhelming. I'm like, start with the basics. You answer
Mm,
those three questions, you are going to be setting yourself up for so much success. Like, it might not feel like it because it's just three questions, but I
right.
promise you, you're setting yourself up for a lot of success by just answering those three questions.
Like, it's almost too easy.
Right.
You're like, "Wait."
Yes. Right.
That's all you gotta
Exactly.
do.
Yeah.
Okay, thank
And
you.
there are
That
some
is perfect.
digital,
So
yeah, there are some digital platforms too. I actually have a partnership with one. It's called youdreamer.com. You can actually make your board digitally and they mail it to you in 2 weeks.
oh,
Yes.
I love
Mhm.
that. Youdreamer.com,
Youdreamer.com.
YOU or you?
Yes. And you know what? I will let me get with Chase, the founder, the creator of it, and I'll get you a code for your
Oh,
yes,
perfect,
for
perfect.
your
So we'll link that in the we'll link that in the show notes so people can click directly and have that because that is actually something that when I was traveling, I didn't have my paper and scissors and magazines, but I created a vision board usually like once every 2 years. But now I'm committed to doing more frequently. I would create one on Google presentations basically, and I would just take screenshots of things, put it, and then I'd actually create it as my screensaver of my background on my computer. So every time I opened my computer, I would see it. So I love that. So we'll link to the show notes there so people can have a chance to get the app if they want, but of course that physical paper is so important too. So the last piece of this, and you spoke a lot about this with when you're talking about your kids and following up with them and that accountability piece. Someone has they sat down, they wrote the questions, they created their vision board either on paper or digital. And now what? So, like, what do you do after the vision board is complete? What are your top tips to ensure that that vision board is brought from that intention into action?
So when you create you have your images within that question, those 33 questions. Like I said, if you're really pulling back the layers and you're really getting to the root of it and understanding exactly what it is you got to work on, I would say that one of the best ways to set yourself up for success is to grab an accountability partner. Like we are 95% more likely to accomplish our goals when we have an accountability partner. In and of that aspect is a lot of intention too. Like you need to pick someone who you feel can deliver when you're not holding up your end of the bargain. Like that person can be the
So
person that
true.
says to you, hey, Kelly, I know you had this goal and like you've been slacking. Like I haven't seen you, I haven't seen you've been working towards, you have not been in the ocean swimming for, for 2 days or 3 days or whatever. And I know that this is something that you want to do. They can just present it to you in that very like just come at you way that is like, okay, you're like, all right, I need to check myself. You're right. I got to get back in it because accountability is so huge. We can't go alone and we shouldn't. We really shouldn't. We should be bringing other people into it. So find that kind of support system and accountability is a big piece of it. I would say the next thing is grace. We got to give ourselves grace. Like I said, we can't be consistent every single day. One of the easiest ways for me to stay on task, even with my kids, is I'm a huge lover of Post-it notes. I have a Post-it note method that I use. I'm obsessed with it because honestly, now it is just how I operate. Every Sunday, I get out 5 Post-it notes. I write one thing on each of them to represent Monday through Friday. I'm responsible for one task pertaining to my goals, not all 3 goals either. One task pertaining to one of my 3 goals. That's all
Mm,
I'm accountable for because in reality, I'm accountable for so much more. I'm responsible for so much more. I'm responsible for getting 3 kids up and out the door every day and to school on time. I'm responsible for Zoom calls and meetings and, and rewrites and edits on my workbook and writing pieces for, the daily drip. Like there's so much
mhm.
throughout my day that if I tried to overwhelm myself by saying, I got to accomplish these 5 things today for my goals, this is why people cut and run because they get so overwhelmed. We do it to ourselves. It's that self sabotage. And then we wonder why we're unhappy or why we get frustrated with ourselves. It's because we didn't set ourselves up for success. So I say one thing, and at the end of that week, you've got 5 things that you've accomplished towards your goals. That's pretty remarkable when you think about it and everything else that you've had to deal with. And guess what? If you only get 4 of those things because life throws you a curveball, like a hurricane in the middle of the week or something, that
Right?
happens, right? You're like, okay, I got 4 of those things done. I'm still pretty stinking excited and proud of myself for that. And then just jot down, like on Friday, take a little journal out and just a few lines. Like, I'm really proud of myself for having done that this week. Like, I stayed the path, I stuck with it. It was difficult. I didn't always want to do it, but I like the way it made me feel at the end of the week, being able to write, I did it. I don't always want to work out. I don't always want to eat healthy. I don't always want to save money, but I know the way all 3 of those things make me feel when I'm on that trip, when I'm getting to indulge because I followed my meal plan throughout, the week and now I'm on vacation and I'm living it up. And I'm
Yeah.
also wearing the swimsuit that I worked really hard to get into on my beach on the Amalfi Coast because I did all of those things to get me, to that point. So I think small steps, small steps. But I would say those 3 things:
Yeah.
the grace, the Post-it notes, and
Accountability.
accountability. Thank you. I'm like
Accountability.
I'm like,
I'll hold I'll hold you accountable for the
"Thank
accountability
you."
part. So, another thing that just came up for me when you were saying that gratitude piece or being proud of yourself at the end of the week is that that builds your self-esteem, that you have done something for yourself. And then that building of the self-esteem continues to further fuel how big you can dream and how much you think you can achieve. So I think it really just goes full circle here, all the way back to the beginning of what people want to dream and why they don't go for it, whether it's travel related or not. And one thing about having one thing each day, which would equal 5 things that you've done for your goals. But if you only get 4, that's still great, because instead of thinking I have to attain 5 and that 5 is the baseline, we actually have to think about it like 0 is the baseline. As of last week, I did 0 things towards my goals because I didn't have goals. And now I did 4 things towards my goals. That's 0 jumped to 4 instead of thinking I was supposed to do 5 and I only did 4. It's like that mindset shift has changed everything for me. And it continues to build that self esteem instead of spiraling into the shame of I didn't do enough. Because so many of us, especially as women, are I haven't done enough. I am not enough. I should be doing more.
Yes. Yeah, because we put so much pressure on ourselves. I love that. I love that. That's a fantastic reframe and way to really set that up when you think about our baseline starting every, I'm a Sunday planner. So I mean, every Sunday, to your point, like I'm at 0, I'm at ground 0. And then I only go up from there. Because to your point, if I do 1 or 2 things, well, that's 1 or 2 things that had I not even had a plan at all, I never would have even accomplished.
Incredible. So, for those who are listening and they're like, oh my God, Maria is speaking my language, I got to connect with her. What's the best way for them to connect with you, either online or through your programs? How would you love people to reach out?
Yes. So I on the socials, I hang out most on Instagram and then LinkedIn because of the professional piece, because I work with a lot of corporations. So if you want my program to come to your corporate company, which I love to do in the personal, professional, and leadership development space, because there's so much that we learn about ourselves through this process. I would love that. So you can find me on my website. That'd probably be the easiest way to kind of see all of the work that I do individually, group coaching wise, corporate wise, and in the collegiate space as well, as a speaker on college campuses for sororities and fraternities, really talking about how they create their vision and the culture at their chapter on their campus. My website is mmsconsultingfirm.com. So just Maria Maldonado Smith, mmsconsultingfirm.com. You can hit me up, email me, Maria at mmsconsultingfirm.com. I promise I'll write you back. And I'm on all the socials, but like I said, Instagram and LinkedIn are probably the 2 that I hang out the most. I've got some coaching programs this year that are coming, to your point. Like I don't start anything in January. I do have a big event if you're in South Florida on the 26th of January. And that will be an all day event for you to pour into yourself. It's really geared towards women in the corporate space, entrepreneurial space, working moms, working women, to come together and really kind of chart the vision for 2025. And I think that's about it. Yeah.
I love it. So, we close these episodes with 3 short rapid fire questions and we'll just see what comes up.
Okay.
All right. Did not give you time to prepare for it. So, number 1, what is the country or place that has made the biggest impact on you?
Ooh, Argentina. I mean, that's the one that just comes to my because of my family.
I love it. And then number 2, what is your must-have travel accessory? Like, what can you not travel without?
Ooh, comfortable shoes because I love to walk.
Oh, good one. Yeah, that's a great one. And number 3, what's the biggest life lesson you've learned while traveling?
I think open mindedness and no judgment, like just to accept people as they are and to be willing to learn.
Amazing. Well, thank you so, so much for sharing your time. I am so excited to jump off this recording right now and get right to my vision board. I'm going to do one for my travels. I'm doing for the year. So I'm really
Yay!
excited. And just thank you so much.
Thank you.
Wow, what an incredibly inspiring episode. Are you just ready to whip out your old magazines and create your vision board for the year? I am so thankful for Maria for sharing everything that she shared. I know we really went over a ton of different topics, but I think that'll really get you motivated to dream up all the possibilities for your year ahead. Now, I said at the beginning of this episode that I was going to share what was on my vision board for 2025. So I don't have it in front of me, but I'll just share with you, especially for those listening on audio. So on my vision board, I have a picture of a girl surfing well, I should say, surfing well, because although I can surf, I would not say that I am a surfer because I'm not quite at that level yet, but I love it and I want to continue to grow my skills. And part of that includes traveling to destinations like El Salvador or Nicaragua, going back to Costa Rica, and being able to explore more of how to, expand my surfing skills. I have a picture of the word Pura Vida, which is Costa Rican motto, Pura Vida. And it really is encompassing wanting to go spend more time in Costa or just Central America in general to be able to learn Spanish. I've had this on my vision board since 2017. It is time, Kelly, get it done, learn Spanish. I also have a picture of a podcast studio setup. So I want the podcast to continue to grow. I also have a picture of a plane with clients. So I want to grow the travel advising side of my business as well and just continue to create incredible trips and memories for my clients. So if you have a trip in mind, a bucket list trip, a weekend away to Orlando, like whatever it is, reach out to me and I'd be happy to help. From a, nonprofit side of things, I want to continue my leadership within conservation efforts with my local organization, Surfrider. I run the Ocean Friendly Hotel program. So I want to continue leadership with that. I have separate goals for that conservation effort, but it's definitely something that's important to me. From a health perspective, I just want to heal old injuries. I have a ton of old injuries flaring up at the moment as of recording this. I got knee and hip and shoulder, and it's just like, all right, pay attention, pay attention to your body. So focus on healing old injuries. And then the last and the most important is a picture of my family in Costa Rica. So my husband and my daughters. I just want to continue to work on this lifelong process of presence and joy with my family and being able to drop in and be there for my kids and my husband and truly being present, not on my phone, that kind of thing. So I would love to hear yours. Like, what is on your vision board for 2025? Either shoot me a picture of it through an email or a DM, send me a list of bullet points of what's on yours. Please, I'd love to hear. So you can email me at transformwithtravel@gmail.com or shoot me a DM at transformwithtravel on Instagram. So thanks for listening. I hope that this is everything that you needed it to be today. If you have not left a review or a rating on the podcast, please do. I do a little happy dance every single time I see a review come in. If you have not subscribed to the podcast, please, please, please subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And the most important, keep on exploring. Thanks for tuning in to the Transform with Travel podcast. If you have a friend or a loved one you were thinking of during this episode, spread a little love and share this episode with them, someone who could use a little inspiration. And while you're at it, be sure to subscribe to the podcast as well. To learn more about us, head to www.transformwithtravel.co, and I'll see you on the next episode. This is your reminder to keep on exploring.